Hi, Steve Snyder here, and I'm at the Long Beach Airport in Southern California. And today, or actually this weekend, the EAA tour is visiting. They've been here all weekend. One of the planes they brought with them was this old Ford Tri-Motor, which was the first commercial aircraft in the United States in the late 1920s. It's a neat plane to go up in and ride around. It's $75. The seats are all wood inside. It's pretty cool. But the highlight of the tour stop is their B-17, the aluminum Overcast. And I'm going to give you a little primer on the B-17 today for people that aren't familiar with the B-17. This is a B-17G. You can tell by the chin turret underneath the nose there. There were three models of B-17s flown by the 8th Air Force during World War II. The first was the E model, but it didn't last long. There was only about 500 of those built. Then the F model came in. About 3,400 of those were built, and then it was replaced by the G model. At the end of 1943, there was about 8,600 G models that were made. B-17 was nicknamed a flying fortress because of the armament they carried on the plane. They had 12 to 13 50 caliber machine guns located throughout the aircraft, so they could put out a lot of firepower. Also, the B-17 could take a tremendous amount of battle damage and continue flying. Had four Curtiss-Wright radial engines here. We're going to walk up to the nose. In the nose, right there in the plexiglass area, you had the bombardier, whose main function was to drop the bombs accurately using the Norden bomb sight. But then also, when it was under attack by enemy fighters, the bombardier operated the chin turret on the G model. And then behind him was the navigator, who needed to know where they were going and where they were. He manned those cheek guns. There was a cheek gun on each side of the nose when they were under attack. Here you see the nose art. I love the nose art. The 8th Air Force, the Air Force was the only entity that allowed their planes to be painted. The Marines didn't, the Navy didn't, nor did any other country. But the 8th Bomber Command thought that it would help these young guys' morale if they could personalize their planes by naming them and painting them. And they were very creative in what they painted them. Usually it was a nude woman. This particular B-17 aluminum Overcast, it was manufactured in 1945, and then it was bought from the government for $750 in 1946. Eventually it was restored to flying condition in 1994. It has the, you'll notice on the tail, markings of the 389th bomb group. There were 40 bomb groups in the 8th Air Force during the war. Well, they're kind of warming up the engines here to go out, take people up on a flight. It's $450 to go up on a flight in these. It's about a 20-minute flight. We're going to come around here for another view. Up above the nose, you had the cockpit where the two pilots. You had a first pilot who was the commander of the plane. My dad was a first pilot. His plane was named the Susan Ruth after my oldest sister, who was 1 year old at the time that he went overseas. He was in the 306 bomb group stationed at Thurley, England, which is about 60 miles north of London. Today I'm president of the 306 Bomb Group Historical Association. In the right seat you had the co-pilot. Then up above them you see the top turret. That was operated by the flight engineer, who was really the mechanic on the plane. So if the plane was under attack, he manned that top turret. Then behind him, and it's kind of hard to see here, was the bomb bay, which is in there. It's not open right there. It carried various types of bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs, incendiaries. And it's very narrow in there. There's an 8-inch catwalk between the bombs, which hung in racks on each side of the plane. It's very cramped. Then behind the bomb bay, in that little window you see there, that's where the radio operator sat. he had the most comfortable position on the plane. He had a chair and a little desk to sit at, fairly roomy. And then the most cramped position on the plane was the ball turret. And that ball turret was usually a man of smaller stature. He was in that, these missions lasted 8 to 10 hours, so he was in a fetal position for a long time down there in the ball. And then up behind the ball you had 2 waist gunners, one on each side of the plane. The F models, those windows were open, so the wind just howled in. On the G model, they closed them. And there was one 50 caliber machine gun in each side. The chin turret, the top turret, and the ball turret each had twin 50 caliber guns. They carried about 5,000 rounds of ammunition, and they only fired in short bursts. Because otherwise the barrel would become too hot and maybe melt. Also, the closing speed when these enemy fighters passed, it was so fast that they didn't have time to shoot very many rounds. I don't know if you can see the ammunition belt there. I got a little too close. Sorry about that. It came in lengths of 27 feet. So if a gunner fired the whole belt, he said he fired the whole 9 yards. We'll move back here a little bit and show you the tail. Well, I'm going the wrong way. Here we go. And again, you see the triangle W. The triangle, there were 3 air divisions in the 8th Air Force, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The 1st and 3rd Air Divisions flew B-17s. The 2nd Air Divisions flew B-24 Liberators. And the insignia for the 1st Air Division was a triangle. And then the 398th Bomb Group, or 389th Bomb Group, their designation was a W. The 306 Bomb Group that my dad was in, they were also in the 1st Air Division, so they had a triangle. And then Thurli, the 306 Bomb Group, was designated by the letter H, so they were a triangle H as opposed to a triangle W. So we'll move around here to get to the end of the plane, and here now we're looking at the tail turret. It was also our tail gun. It was also a very cramped position. And this particular model has what they call the Cheyenne turret, which was made in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Boeing designed and manufactured about 64% of all the B-17s. 18% were manufactured by Lockheed Vega, and another 18% by the Douglas Aircraft Corporation. But the ones that had the Cheyenne turret here that came along a little later in the war, they were installed in Cheyenne, Wyoming. That's why it's called the Cheyenne turret. So there you have it. It's a Sunday morning actually right now, and the first flight's going to go up. They take about 8 people up at a time. They're going to board in about a half an hour. And some B-17s that take people up for flights, you have to stay in one position the whole flight. But the Overcast is one where they can move around after the plane's up in the air. Obviously, the best position is up in the nose. And that plexiglass, well, you can see, have a great view and see all over the place. So that's kind of a Flying Fortress B-17 101 for those that aren't all that familiar with this plane. It was iconic. The most famous B-17 was the Memphis Belle, which was actually an F model. Most all the other ones that are out today are G models. The Memphis Belle is being restored, not to flight, but just for static display, as it was when it came back from the war. And will be on display at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. So I hope you enjoyed our little tour. Again, for those, I know a lot of friends know a lot about the B-17. This is nothing new to them, but I thought perhaps for some folks it might be educational to get a little information about the plane. So hope you enjoyed it. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.